Hello. Oh, God. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm coming back alive, you see. I'm feeling life, and that's what's happening. I was a corpse. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a Geek First retrospective, a.k.a. a Patreon pick. My name is the Clown Prince of Podcast. Check out June 1st, our new network, because I'm hosting a Marvel show. My nickname on there is the podcaster of mischief, like the god of mischief with Loki. So I got I got my Star Wars name as well, the number one Kylo Ren fanboy in the world. So I have three separate names. So I am joined by maybe some sort of caster around here.
I'm actually I'm gonna just switch it up on this one. I'm gonna say that I'm the girl on the bus, Dylan Muss.
Oh, I like that. You got the rhyme with the muss and the bus. I respect it. I'm the not quite dead yet, Kirklin Patzer.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe you've guessed from the nicknames or you've guessed from the title, but today we're doing a Patreon pick. Summer Hansey, DH Hansey, the woman of 1,000 names, because I always say this, DH.
Every week for name changes.
Yeah, it changes, and it confuses me every time because, what is this name? One time when she changed her name to Obi-Wan Kenobi, I was like, is this some bot, hitting me up? But no, go check her out. Go check out her band, Seas of Sapphire. Really good. I've always said I got Smoker in my playlist. Good band. And she's been a fan of us for a long time. She's one of the OGs. She's been around for us. She's
Truly.
I think she's one or two as far as on our Patreons as well. And she put a lot of thought in this because she said she was having a difficult time, and I think she did a great choice. But before we get into that, as always, down below are the links. You can find us pretty much everywhere on the interwebs. As Taylor would say, go to Google, you'll find us there. But Facebook, Twitter, every podcast service probably in the world. Once we didn't even put ourselves on there, we just log on and it's there. YouTube, and as we said, Patreon. Patreon's going to become a full-time tier, but like I said, not right now, all time. If you've never joined, please join on any tier, and you can recommend a movie, a game, something for us geeks to play or watch, and we will retrospective and review it and give you a shout out. And then also look out, because in June, July, there's going to be some new tiers with some new fun perks on there, so look out for that. But just go there now. You got tons of good stuff. Dylan, you got anything to plug in the upcoming future? I'm not exactly sure when this launches, but I think it would launch in the realm of the thing we've done, you and I, so...
Sure, a couple things to plug. Yeah, check out Out of Mana's, the gaming show I've been doing. A couple episodes should be up by the time this is, by the time you're listening to this on the feed. It's on the same feed as this show, so it's easy to find. Go check that out. Mm-hmm. Me and Travis did an episode talking about Summer Game Fest. Did an episode talking about Valorant. Going to be doing an episode talking about Elder Scrolls, so that's going to be fun. And then the other thing I want to shout out is Super Switch Heads is a Nintendo podcast that I guessed on either a week ago, 2 weeks ago, who knows when this cast is going up. But I think it was episode 65, I believe it was. It was a boss fight episode. So if you're a gaming fan or a Nintendo fan, check out their podcast just for the sake of it, but also go check me out on that show. It was a fun time being on their show.
Yeah, I listened to it. It was a good thing. I liked the thumbnail that caught my eye of the two Bowsers facing off, and I liked it's funny. We just in the near future we might not be, but we will be. Dylan and I just recorded an Arkham Retro, and we talked about boss battles there, so it was an interesting conversation there. So yeah, check that out. And then, as I said before, June 1st, we got our podcast network launching. Me and Chris, who host Marshall, record our first episode. I can tease we picked the top 6 storylines, comic storylines that should be adapted to the MCU, and we got a bunch of fun segments. So yeah, check that out. There'll be more information. We're going to try and do a big crossover episode with us, me and everybody, and you'll get to meet them. But check that out. That helps everybody grow, helps us grow. And Kirklin, how you doing? You weren't around last week for the Nick Cage movie, so how you doing for the viewers?
I've been doing great. I know some of the viewers are worried, but COVID
You've been
hasn't caught me
chopping
yet.
wood.
I've been chopping wood. Yeah, I've been hiding in the woods. Got a big lumberjack beard. That's a lie. Travis saw me. And he
has long hair though.
I do have long hair. Oh
yeah.
Waiting for that hairdresser to open. I got the COVID cut for sure. Working on a mullet.
When you were in the woods, did you find any dead bodies?
No dead bodies that I will.
Any
that's
Swiss
what I'm
Army men or?
No Swiss Army men. I saw a Swiss Army knife, but I kept it there.
Well, you didn't, but Hank sure did, because that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about Swiss Army Man 2016, which was an indie sensation when this movie came out because it was just known as the Farting Corpse movie. It set the world on fire. I haven't some of my trivia, but people, I'll say it now, when this premiered at festivals, people were walking out and everything like that. And then once that happened, the trailer premiered, and it was just this what is this Farting Corpse movie? And that's what we're talking about today. Swiss Army Man 2016, a hopeless man stranded on a deserted island befriends a dead body, and together they go on a surreal journey to get home. So yeah, Kirkland, you were here last week, so lead us off. What did you think about Swiss Army Man? Had you seen it before? Had you heard of it? And what are your overall impressions of this Daniel Radcliffe, Paul Dano Joe? Who also, we had talked about this before, but Paul Dano playing the Riddler in an upcoming thing, so there's some geek ties. So this might be some of your guys' first experience. Yeah, he's our new Riddler. So I hope you guys enjoyed him. So yeah, Kirkland, what was your experience with Swiss Army Man?
Yeah, so I'm looking at it right now. I guess it came out in 2016. For some reason, I thought it came out like a year ago. So yeah, when this movie came out, I had a buddy of mine that told me about it, and he was kind of describing it exactly what Travis just said. And he said Daniel Radcliffe played the dead body, and I don't know what it was. It just I just shook my head. I'm like, yeah, it's kind of interesting. And it just was forgotten. It was just in the wind. I totally forgot about this movie until it was on the Patreon, so gotta watch it for the fans, and I'm so glad it actually got picked because I was able to talk to my buddy about the movie, and oh man, what a wild ride. It's so weird because I think this is actually the first thing I've seen Daniel Radcliffe in since Harry Potter. I was looking through like the IMDb. I guess he was in Now You See Me Too. I think I only saw the first movie of that. And then some of the other movies I just didn't see. It's just so weird for like the last thing I saw him in to be Harry Potter, and here we are. He's playing a farting corpse. It's just so weird. It really sets the tone, like the first 10-15 minutes, just what the movie's gonna be. And yeah, I don't know. It's one of those movies that's so ridiculous that I can't help but laugh, but at the same time it's like, this is just so ridiculous. Yeah, I watched it with Shay, and she absolutely hated it. She says every time there's a Patreon movie, she just gets upset because she knows it's gonna be a wild ride. And usually she doesn't like the Patreon movies.
It's gonna get to the point where she's gonna go on our Patreon and pay just so you guys can watch.
Yeah, exactly. When she watched all the movies, she'll
Patrons, you all need to up your tier. If you're causing her to have any emotional distraught, or if they get in a fight regardless because of you guys owe Kirkland Patzer, putting her through this terrible time.
It was interesting because when I was watching the movie, I don't know, when the farts are going off, it's kind of just the ridiculous shock humor that's just okay, this if this just keeps going on, I probably won't be that interested, it'll probably just get annoying. But for whatever reason, there's a shift in the tone of the movie, I feel, where it kind of feels like a heartfelt, he kind of gets a heart to heart with this corpse at one point, and it's just you kind of get to understand I don't know, what's his name, Hank. You get a just, I don't know, some of the mental things that's going on with him, and it's a really kooky movie, but there's some I don't know, heartfelt moments in the movie, but at the same time it's just so ridiculous. I don't know, it was just such a I don't know, it's hard to describe. It is I'm looking at the genres right now. It says comedy, drama, fantasy.
That's all true. That's all true, right?
I guess so, yeah, because yeah, it's.
Would you recommend it?
I'm being very selective with the people that I am recommending this movie to. I've already texted a few buddies and told them to watch it. It's still on Netflix, so you don't have to pay anything if you already have the Netflix subscribe, right? So I don't know, if you like wild, weird movies. I'm trying to think of something that I would compare it to, because The Lighthouse is another movie that's just really wacky and wild, but it's not so much a comedy, right? It's kind of just, I don't know what type of genre you'd call that. It's just a period piece, drama. I don't know, thriller. I guess that'd kind of be. So if you like,
it's definitely in its own kind of it has touchstones, but it's definitely, I would say it kind of is an inspirational type of movie as well, especially near the end portion.
Yeah,
it gets us to some weird situations, and it's maybe lessons you might not want to take from the movie, but it definitely is. I would say maybe an enlightening movie at times too.
Yeah, for sure. The main character that's alive, Hank, he definitely sees a bit of a weirdo. I don't know if that's a strong word, but there's periods where he makes art with just garbage that he finds, and he just seems such a talented person. He makes these entire like figurine
Sets.
Sets, there you go, thank you, that's a good word for it. It's just it's mind-boggling, and like it happens really quick, and it doesn't show him like really making it. It's just like all of a sudden there's this entire room filled with all of these like really elaborate figurines, and it's just like, wow, this guy's actually insanely talented. But like, I don't know, he's he also talks to a dead guy, and he's kind of going crazy, and like there's parts of this movie that I'm thinking that, I mean, spoiler alert, but like the dead guy starts talking at one point, and like for a while I was just like, is this just in his head? Like, is he just so, malnourished, so like just on his own for so long that he's starting to like hallucinate, see this guy talking to him? Like I wasn't sure if it was a psychological trip like that, but then like the end just totally answers that question for me. It's just throughout this film, I was really like scratching my head as to how it was going to end. I wasn't sure if he was imagining the whole thing. I wasn't sure if it was going to switch and like Hank was the dead guy the whole time. I don't know. It was just, whoa. I know I was going deep with some of my theories as I was watching the film, but overall, I'd recommend it to if you like an original film. I guess that's a word I could use for it. It's just yeah, I don't know. Like, there's a lot of people I said that you would not like it whatsoever. Obviously, Shay falls into that category, and I don't know. So someone else take it away.
I got you. Yeah, I think the last point you made there of just this being an original film, I think that's like the most important thing. Like, this is one of the strangest movies I've ever seen, but there's nothing quite like it. It's very interesting and unique. And I don't know if I love this movie, but I love that this movie exists.
Yeah, and that's a good way to say it.
Yeah, it's on Netflix, at least Netflix Canada. I don't know if it's in the States for majority of our listeners or wherever you are elsewhere. But I think you should definitely watch it. Like, it's an hour and a half, clean hour and a half. It's pretty, I don't know, short, I guess. I think you should definitely watch this movie. I think it's worth watching just for the sake that it's so strange and bizarre, and there isn't really anything quite like it. I love where, like as a kid growing up, and like Harry Potter was a very important thing for me, and like Lord of the Rings, and I just love to see where Elijah Wood and Daniel Radcliffe are nowadays making movies with Elijah Wood last week when we did that Nick Cage movie, and then even that movie that he just released earlier this year. I think it's called like Daddy's Home or something, just this really weird horror movie. And then Daniel Radcliffe, I just watched Guns Akimbo like a couple months ago, which is just where Daniel Radcliffe has like two guns stapled to his hands. And I feel like this could almost be like the spiritual successor to that movie in a way. Like somewhere along the way he died, and then he came back as like this version of himself. But I don't know, I just find it so strange and hilarious what the kind of strange art movies that these guys are making right now. But yeah, I think this is actually a really solid movie in the sense that it is very like stupid at first, right? It's just like the reuse of fart jokes, which never goes away. But then it kind of doesn't become a joke after a while. It just becomes like a constant thing. And then, yeah, like this movie is very endearing at times. And I think there's like some very, very emotional moments that are really brought home with like the soundtrack that I think is actually really solid as well.
Soundtrack's solid.
So I like I said, I don't know if I love this movie, but I love that it exists. It's so interesting, and I'm so glad that I have watched this movie. And I definitely recommend it. I think this is this movie's worthy of a watch. That's what I'd say.
Yeah, so I had honestly never seen this film. I had seen little pieces of it, and it had been on my record, like on my my what the fuck would it be?
To watch list something?
To watch list with my queue and whatnot. It was on pace for me, like, okay, I'm gonna see this at some point. 2016 just didn't happen. Hey, we were doing Geek First, so maybe something happened there. But so I'd never seen it. I think I'd seen little clips here and there, but me and Emily were always wanting to watch it just because, just in your premise, I'm a big Paul Dano fan. As I said before, I'm a big fan as far as the casting for Riddler, so I'm excited to see that. Very gonna be a different character than the one he portrays here. I would hope so. Maybe it's not. Maybe we're gonna really different Batman. But and also it just had all those fixings of, okay, I like Paul Dano. It looks like a weird film, and I always give weird films a chance because maybe they don't pan out. Maybe there's some you really like, some you don't. But I always, if it's something kind of like what these two were talking about, some unique, original, fresh, let's see it, because there's not many of those ideas out there. There is, but not in the mainstream. So, and then it is the Daniel Radcliffe effect. It is just like Dylan's pointing out, these guys that are these big franchises just want to be fucking weird. They got the money to be fucking weird, right? They made their millions doing these franchises. Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings are two movies that are constantly watched, constantly rented, so they're always getting these, these great paychecks from them and everything. So they And I also think they want to do stuff that they don't want to be associated with those characters anymore, right? And you can't associate this guy with Harry Potter, other than, okay, it's the same actor, but there's nothing alike. There's no way. And I had them the trivia, but the Daniel Radcliffe has said this is his favorite film he's ever done. And I think
Really?
it's just, yeah, it's such a weird film, but I have to say I loved it. I loved it so much. From it starts as like this really kind of almost like juvenile, like potty humor, and you just think you're going to get that. It's just going to be, okay, he's dealing with this farting corpse who's maybe coming alive. But in that middle section, that's where it really got me, of just, it is this guy who's working through trauma, he's working through depression. It's funny, it reminded me, because he has like, maybe you'll get into it, but some imaginary things that happen. It reminded me a lot of Joker, but in a way different world. But the same way as like he has Zazie Beetz' character who he sees, but it's not really there, and he's working through things. And clearly I feel like maybe it's not as bad, but both these characters end in places that are not good for them. Joker's in prison, and I feel like Mark ends in a place that, or Hank ends in a place where, yeah, maybe something was real, but at the end of the day, like, this guy's definitely going to prison, I would say. And that's where I guess we should say, if you haven't seen this movie, tune out now, watch it, come back, because we'll get into some spoilers following up. But yeah, it was a really emotional journey. And then even then to make these farts mean something, and to make them not comedic at the end, even though they are a little bit comedic, it was crazy how much I enjoyed the film, because I was enjoying it just from the weirdness point of view, but as it kept going on, I found myself loving it more and more. And like I said, all these allegories for him working through his life, and also just being like, what is going on? Because I had all these theories. My theory was, he was maybe dead and stuck in purgatory, because the thing is that stuff with Daniel Radcliffe doesn't happen until he jumps. All he sees is a dead body, he slips, and then he starts to hang himself. So I thought, is he kind of stuck in between worlds? I thought at one point, is this an allegory for maybe he is having a child somewhere in the real world, and because he's like teaching Daniel Radcliffe the rights and wrongs, how you're supposed to act and everything like that. So I think it's a very layered movie. I think the ending is, I'm interested to talk about it. If I had any kind of, I wouldn't even say problems, but just things that I'd really want to watch it again to sit with, is the ending, because I think they threw a lot at you very fast in those last 5 minutes. A lot's going on, but I think it was great performances, even from Daniel Radcliffe, who's playing a farting corpse. But it's a really emotional movie, and I think it's just like about working through emotional trauma and just finding kind of like your inner self, finding your confidence. It really is about that for both these characters, is finding who you're supposed to be and not hiding anymore. And I think that was it was a great task that still pulled off in this like movie that has like a lot of potty and gross humor that you would like have a 10-year-old telling, but somehow they mixed it really well, and I can say I love this movie.
Yeah, nice.
Where do we want to start?
That's the hardest one for me. I don't even know. This is just such a strange movie. It's hard to conceptualize it as a thing, and therefore it's like I don't even know like where you'd go with this one.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Geek First Podcast. We're going to throw to some ads right now. So if you want to give you a fair minute warning, we don't get to choose the ads that come on here. So sometimes they can be a little bit loud. So I'm going to give you a nice 5-second countdown to turn down those headphones so you don't get a bleeding ear, or you're driving your car and all of a sudden you swerve into traffic. You don't want that. So help us support Geek First. Listen to these ads. Keep the lights on in here. But you got 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We'll be back in a second. Performances. How we'll just start easy. What do you guys have you guys watched Paul Dano before? And if not, what do you think about him? Because obviously he does a lot in this. Yeah, he does a lot in this film.
Yeah,
he's like very depressed. At one point, he's playing a girl for like half the film and everything like that. So lots of stuff going on. But I guess just you got Mary Elizabeth Winstead in there for 5 minutes. So we can start with cast before we find our way into natural weird conversations we're getting to.
That's a safe start. Yeah, Paul Dano. Dano. So Paul Dano. I feel like I've only seen him in like movies where he kind of plays like a weird character, or like or like a villain type character. I don't know, like I should look up his IMDb.
He was in
be semi-prepared.
12 Years a Slave, Looper, apparently.
Yeah, he's always playing. He's always like
Little Miss Sunshine for whatever reason. That was the movie I was thinking of.
He always plays like a Weasley guy, or like the gross villain guy, and he's always like a very character actor. So it was funny that he landed this. But again, some trivia, I guess I'm kind of working throughout. He said that the reason he joined the movie is because he heard the director's pitch, and the one sentence that got him says, the first fart you hear will make you laugh, and then the last fart you hear will make you cry. And he said, "Oh, that's it, I'm in." And that's how they got him. So
that's how
he was
pitch a
on
movie
board.
right there.
Oh yeah, you that's like a challenge, right? And I think I think like also we were talking about Dano, but I think he does a good job of those scenes. Like Daniel Radcliffe is doing really good acting, but he is working sometimes with the guy that's emotionless, and I think he does a good job of portraying the emotions for both of them. I think he does, especially that middle part where they are trying to get him back to life, and just like the range of emotions Dano goes through. I think he just kind of knocks it out of the park in this movie, and I already was a fan of him, but he just has to do a lot, and I think he does it really well.
No, totally. And like what I was gonna say is exactly what you said. Like he's a really good character actor from what I saw before. So as soon as the movie started, I thought it was interesting that he was just like the lead, because I had never experienced him as a lead before in a movie. And I don't know, because I'd always seen him playing like weird sort of characters. I thought he was like a perfect lead for this weird movie.
Yeah.
But no, like he definitely pulled off those emotional scenes, whether it was with Daniel Radcliffe or like just the mannequin. I like for a second there, I was like, well, is it Daniel Radcliffe the entire movie? And then there's the scene when he's just like squirting water. I'm like, okay, yeah, it's definitely a dummy. There's some of the things like with the water and
there's
compass.
like the javelin, the compass
was
too.
Hilarious for me. Yeah, there's just the
like
way
the
that
hook
he
when
used,
yeah.
the way they used him as the Swiss Army Man. Oh, it worked for me. Like all the comedy with just the shit that would happen, like whether it was the farting in the beginning or like when he falls over and there's just water pouring out of his mouth. I just really, really appreciate the way that they used him for like survival. Yeah. I don't know. It's pretty funny. But back to Paul Dano, I really thought he killed it playing just that character. And like you said, there's definitely some parallels with like the Joker type movie, right? Like when he's having those scenes that might not necessarily be happening, or like when they like recreate the bus scene and he's playing what's her name, Sarah, I think that's her name in the movie. Yeah, it was just really, I don't know, like there's certain scenes that seem like a montage like of clips like clipped together, and like there's certain points I wasn't sure if it was just made up stuff or it was actually happening, because like what I was saying before, how there'd be like an entire set of these figurines that he made. Like there's some points that it would just shoot to an entire room filled with that. It's like, did he really make that, or is he just tripping or something that we're just seeing? Like, there's some interesting uses of like the cuts of scenes.
Well, and even too, like that's why I compared it a little bit to Joker, because near the ending, when all the other people find it, it feels like the ending of a horror movie about a serial killer, because they're like they're horrified to see, like, first of all, he has a bunch of pictures of her on her phone, her husband. They see all like the buses recreated. Like in that moment, you're like, this guy's a psychopath, and like we can't trust him at all. We need to lock him up. We need to arrest him. But then I feel like he plays it in such an endearing way that you're still kind of cheering for him. So
yeah. No, totally. And like that's like that scene definitely has those Joker vibes, right? Like when he's showing like the tent, but you're like was he outside her house the entire time? Like was he actually just a guy living like in the woods, right? Like stalking her. Like it was just, it definitely like throws a lot at you at the end there, so you don't really have time to digest whether, I don't know, like it truly was. And sorry, I'm scrambling on my words here, but like especially before that point, Manny like wasn't talking again, right? So like were you wondering if he actually killed Manny and he was living outside this woman's house and then at the end Manny just comes back alive, and then I feel like I don't know, it kind of answers that question, because you're like, okay, well Manny was alive, everyone just saw him and they commented on that they saw him, right? So it's like, I
think it does, but at the same point, I still think you could spin it as this is still in Paul Dano's mind, that in his world, Daniel Radcliffe would fart and everyone would see like, oh, Paul, like Hank is right, like he's not like that's the thing. I feel like he's such an unreliable narrator that I don't trust that ending for me officially as like a confirmation. I just think it's kind of like he believes it enough that he believes it that he could make everyone else believe it in his mind. So it could be. I'd love to ask the directors, but I take it as like you still don't know, because this guy's all over the map and needs some medication.
No, that is a really good point.
I guess I have a question then. So I don't know if there is like this reality where it's all just in his head. I guess my question was, even just when you read the IMDb description, a hopeless man stranded on a deserted island. I was under the impression that he like went to this island to like kill himself. Essentially, that's what I thought was going on. So I don't really understand how he was stranded. Maybe he was never actually stranded. He was just on the beach chilling, and then he just started to go back inward through the forest.
There's one moment I think it's when he's back I don't know, in that neighborhood, and like he's talking to his dad, or he's interacting with his dad in some way, or maybe he's even talking about his dad. I can't quite remember, but he says that like he was running away from everyone, like he wanted to be alone.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like I just took it as like, yeah, he just wanted to run away, but like it doesn't really go into specifics on how he actually got on that island. So I don't know, it's kind of up for interpretation.
I guess that's where the theory comes in, that it's all in his head, right? Because that's the only thing that, if he were to make it back from the island, the only way he'd be able to do that is if he did have the Swiss Army Man. I'm picturing Elastigirl from Incredibles, where she's just scooting along the water. But that's the only thing that really needs to happen, because the other stuff we could just, say is all in his head. And then, as you're saying, the scene at the very end might just be in his head as well when he scoots off into that GIF that Kirklin's been sending him.
That GIF is so amazing. It's like his smirk and his like smile. It's just. I love it.
And that's the thing where at the beginning, I think they framed that in that way, because this is a guy that he's always talking about, like, you can't, I'm just trying to think of that montage when they show all the times he, like, farted away from Manny, like he was hiding. Oh, my goodness. But, like, he's, at the very beginning, he's playing it off, or he's portraying to Manny that he is a normal person, right? We don't know Sarah is his obsession, and that he has you kind of get some inklings that, okay, maybe there's something up because there's a little minor flashbacks to the bus, but still it's like he's talking to Manny about how you have to be normal, how you can't say these certain words. And at the beginning it is portraying like, okay, maybe he is stranded on an island, like Castaway style, and he's going to kill himself because he has nothing left and he's stuck here. But really, this guy probably just went to, like Dylan said, maybe went to this island to kill himself, but that's like the imagination that cooked up that story for him. Like, if he said to himself, I'm going to go kill myself on the beach, he couldn't do that. But if there was some story of like, oh, well, I was on a boat and it crashed and I got here and the only way I could kill myself was because I had nothing else left, that's the thing. We don't know exactly where this beach really is, right? So to me, it's like that whole scenario of being stranded could just be in his mind, and he made that story just so he could almost make it right for him to kill himself, because if you listen to him, like you talk about suicide and stuff, like that's not a right way to go. So, which it's not, as always. If you're always suffering from that, go get help. There's tons of people in your life that want you here. So that's a good thing. That I think that this movie is a positive message in that way of showing that it doesn't matter. Yeah, definitely near the end he gets in some sticky territory, but I think that's more in a movie sense. But I think it shows a good thing of, you gotta just accept who you are, and even if it is a scary truth, you have to kind of confront it in the face. But that's where I kind of take the strandedness of like, who knows why he's there, but I definitely don't think he was stranded.
Yeah, I think I like the idea more that this Swiss Army Man is this real thing. And even though that brings up more questions than the alternative of like, what is going on here? Like, how is any of this happening? But that's the fantasy element. And that's why I just like that reality. That's like a more fun reality for me. Obviously, I think that's.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, but it's just like so absurd and over the top. And yes, it has like a million questions related to it. And this movie can't be real, I guess, in the traditional sense. But I don't know. I think that's the idea I prefer. But even then, like, I don't know, if we're looking at like the farting, like I think that's what I would have to assume. That's like bodies make weird noises and pass gas and whatnot after death, and maybe he like heard those sounds and then attributed it to like this farting, and then it's this thing that just never ended, and even though it continued in his head or something. But yeah, I don't know. I think this movie, I think either way, whether it's in his head or not, I think there's so many questions that are unanswered, but I think that's fine, because it's not really, it's not about that the funny fart at the start. It's not about the sad fart at the end. It's about the farts you made along the way, right?
Yeah.
Could have said it better myself.
The thing, and like when you're talking about either film is interesting, it's not like, oh, if you go this route, it's not that interesting. I think if it's all in his head, that's a different type of movie interesting. And clearly, if there's an actual dead body by the power of belief that was brought back to life with farts, that's also a very interesting movie. And that's the thing, and that's where like there's this farts thing, but that's just like, it's just a layer of it. That's not all of it. So it is just like, I did think if he was real, and that's my only suspicion of why it was fake, of he would have jumped on the body and they would have left together. But even then, it gives this story of like this guy who, maybe is down on his life. He believed and was so passionate about his friend that he helped rise this guy and gave him life and gave this farting corpse a purpose, So it's again a positive message of just the power of belief and positivity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I really like there's so many. I feel like there's a lot of great sequences or scenes, or just like there is like a lot of development that happens between these characters. And even if it is just this one guy who's kind of imagining it all, I think it is really interesting. Like that sequence with the fake bus, I think is great, right? Just between the fact that he made this whole set, put it together, but I don't know, just like the reimagining of it and how he's idealizing it to be this thing that's greater than it is, or that how she would react to this is different than how it would happen in person. I think it's interesting how much of that is just built up, and then at the end, it's interesting because then it almost feels like nothing, like he reacts the same way he always would have. So it's almost like he didn't make any changes, and maybe that's kind of the point of it, is that he doesn't really change throughout it.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So then. Yeah, no, I could agree with that, because it's funny that he doesn't say anything and he's still kind of nervous, and then it's almost like because he's that nervous. I know Manny says he's like, oh, don't tell her how much I love her and everything like that, but it's almost like because he doesn't progress, Manny kind of passes away again. You know, it's almost like if he were to talk and grow, you'd almost have Manny growing with him, but because he stays the same or degresses, Manny goes back to the corpse. And I think not the confusing part, but I think at the end that was throwing me off a little bit, because I thought they were trying to do some scenario where he maybe was dead the whole time and they were going to open up this bag and it was him, because they were doing this whole thing of like he changed his name to Manny, and then his dad goes to see the corpse, but he can't look at it. So I don't actually know if that little thing was needed at the end for him to like fake himself and then go to the news camera and be like, I'm actually Hank and that's me. I thought that was just a little too much to add on to the ending, because there was already a lot going on with potential of him being crazy or this corpse being real. So that just kind of like quick personality or like identity switch I didn't need. But I think, like you said, there's lots of great sequences. I think all the sequence, every time he kind of discovers he has a new power, whether it's like the ship hook and he's just like swinging on him like a jungle gym, whether the water, it's just such a horrifying image when he does have him as the shower and he's just pulling and you just see the water shooting out of his mouth, like the imagery. And you guys talk about the soundtrack. I can't remember the song specifically, but there is that more moment near the end where it's a bunch of montage of them like really like kind of like he's playing the role of Sarah and they're like dating the other guy, going to different parties and watching movies and everything like that. That was all great stuff. And even at one point when they have like a really slow dramatic version of Jurassic Park, which I was surprised they got the rights to, but the use of music, because there's times in this film where I feel there's not music for a while and then it comes in at just the right point. So I feel like it was the usage of music with whether the scene it went with was really well done.
Mm-hmm. I was going to ask you guys, because there's that one point where he's showing Manny some movies. He shows him E.T. and Titanic. Mm-hmm. What I'm sure, Travis, you probably have a lot, but what movies do you guys think you could like recreate scene for scene to show someone in a sequence like that?
Oh, that's interesting. I feel like I would take clips from like Endgame or like Infinity War, just like superheroes dying.
I feel like that'd be very like, how are you gonna get the CG on that? I think you need like a simpler movie, you know.
I mean, if I was Hank,
no limits,
man, I'd be pretty good to figurines. I feel like I can make any backdrop. Like he was incredibly talented, making like taking like old bottles, taking just garbage and making these huge just figurines.
Yeah, it was me always, of course, Dark Knight, because I know that movie like line from line. Toy Story, because it's just like a good kid oriented tale. Ooh, I'm trying to think of like what would be another.
I'd probably try and do like Inception or Big Lebowski, of course. That could be a fun
Big
one.
Lebowski. That'd be an easy one for you.
I'd love to try and do Pulp Fiction, because I think that would be tons of fun. I don't know what would happen when you get to the Gimp scene. That would be kind of an awkward thing to act out. Scene. But yeah, we'll skip the Bruce Willis story.
Scene. Come on.
Yeah, just the essential scenes. But I think those are some of the ones I would throw out there. You know, Hannibal the TV show for fun.
Yeah,
make him go crazy.
Yeah, already crazier than he is. Yeah.
What do you guys think of Sarah's reaction to? I mean, because I just thought she drastically underreacted when there's like these two dudes. One of them is like dead.
Yeah.
And then her daughter was just out there for an unbeknownst amount of time. I thought she underreacted quite a bit.
Yeah, I don't know. I felt like her like sincerity of like when like they claim that they're just like missing basically while I was wandering through the woods and they're like need help and it's like, oh really, okay, well then I'll get some help. Like from that point, yes, but like before that it's just like, yeah, it's like, what are you doing here?
They're just having a slow conversation.
These fucking like full dirty, gross looking dudes. One
dead
of them
body.
Just dead. Like, yeah. I mean, I'm assuming he's been dead for a while. I think his body held together pretty darn well for someone that's been dead that long. I
thought they were gonna put in some line. That's why I kind of, any cons I have is with the ending, and that's where it's like, it's strange because this is a movie about a fighting corpse, so it's like, how much realism do you want to bring into it? But even just little stuff, like I thought they were going to chalk it up to maybe he was attacked by a bear or something, and that's why, because if there would have been some line to establish, okay, he is a normal guy at this point and something bad happened to him, that I would understand, like, oh, I'm going to call the police, get some water. But he is just some creepy guy in your backyard with a dead body who is talking to your daughter, who's not really making much sense to you. I do agree that she did it herself, but maybe that was just her plan to, like, try and get out of there alive. I don't know, but she is very calm until they bring her the phone, and then at that point, I feel like in real life you would be, I'd be pretty concerned in general if there was a guy with a dead body and his phone had a bunch of pictures of you, and I liked that wrinkle reveal too, because I wasn't exactly sure. I knew there was some twist with the girl, just because they were being so cagey about it. I knew, okay, something's not right here. Either she's dead, either there's some sort of whatever it is. All these scenarios running through my mind, and I liked the idea of, one, it's not like even his girlfriend or anything, but two, it was he was just lying to Manny the whole time. And it was this kind of good, almost like, again, what I liked about the movie, almost life lessons of you're being friendly, you're building things up, but something you shouldn't do in real life is lie. And the second he did that, Manny felt really betrayed, and he lost like some of his will to live. And I think that was just like, it's a very general life lesson, but I think they showed that in a good way. And then you got that bear scene where Paul Dano was just ready to die, and they're just like, at one point Radcliffe is like laughing. It's just like, oh, weird. And then just the sounds his body make when he's coming alive, he's like cracking all over the place and farting. That was very well done. But oh yeah, it was really good. So I think I liked all for the most part, I think like you brought up, there was some strange stuff, but I liked the reveal and the pacing of, okay, there's this girl, who is she? And they went on the dates and everything like that. I think that was all really well done.
Mm-hmm. So here's another question for you guys. If Daniel Radcliffe, the Swiss Army Man, is actually, if this is not just in Hank's head, if all of this is real, what's going on there? Like, is this some sort of failed military tech that like somehow got lost at sea? What else could it be? I don't know.
That's a really good question, man. I didn't put too much thought into like whether he's from Area 51 or something like that, some alien corpse or something supernatural. I don't know. What do you think, Travis?
They don't ever say what island he was on, right?
He just said the South Pacific, I think. So
yeah, so I kind of chalk it that way of like wherever they were, it's not a science thing. It's something magical is maybe happening around that island, because the thing is, he didn't die, so who knows what would happen to Paul Dano if he died, just because they never specifically say. And like I said, if we're just talking about fun theories, that would be mine, that some almost fantasy sort of element that place kind of disputes something into you that could keep you alive through the genuine of life, right? Like as far as hope, kindness, being good to one another, helping one another. So, or maybe it's just that. Maybe it's like the ultimate kismet karma, right? Maybe it's just karma if you can really turn things around and put all your passion and all your energy into helping somebody and trying to, because at the end of the day, he was trying to escape, but at the same time, he's trying to make the Swiss Army Man be a real person, right? That's the whole reason of why he's doing these things with Sarah, is to not for any of his personal gain. It almost looks like sometimes he's uncomfortable to do it, and later on we learn why. Is because he has an affection for her, maybe an obsession, but either way, he likes this person to love. Yeah. So he's having to reenact these scenarios or just act out scenarios, and he's trying to pretend Sarah to think how she would act, how she would conversate, but it is still at the end of the day him trying to get this person back to life, and that's like a really noble thing to do. So maybe it's just that sort of thing. So I think people shouldn't do that. I don't think you should go out there and find a dead body and just try to act out life things with them. I don't think it's going to work in our world, but at the same time, people haven't tried it, so maybe there's something to it, and these directors know something we don't know. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Geekverse podcast. We're going to throw to some ads right now. So if you want to give you a fair minute warning, we don't get to choose the ads that come on here. So sometimes they can be a little bit loud. So I'm going to give you a nice 5-second countdown to turn down those headphones so you don't get a bleeding ear, or, you're driving your car and all of a sudden you swerve into traffic. You don't want that. So help us support Geekverse. Listen to these ads. Keep the lights on in here. But you got 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We'll be back in a second.
Damn. Yeah, I wonder. I think that's the interesting aspect of it, is that he's kind of putting himself into Manny, and then he's acting as the girl, and not even just in the sequences where he has the wig on and the dress and whatever, but just in general in like conversation pieces. He's kind of taking on that role. But what were you going to say there, Kirkland?
I was just going to say, I'll jot it down as an act of God, and then the reason why, because it's interesting, because like, you know, his compass, his little Mr. Noodle compass that he's got there, it leads him to Sarah, right? Which is like, that's not where he lives. Like, you'd think that the compass would be leading him home, which is originally what he thought. And I was also thinking of like, why would he be bringing him to Sarah? But maybe it's like a big like test, right? This is where he goes through the change in who he was to who he will become. Like, you know, he was kind of kooky, he was kind of a weirdo, kind of a loner, didn't really talk to anyone, pretty depressed, you know, had a bad relationship with his father, and then going on this journey with Swiss Army Man Daniel Radcliffe, Manny. I feel like he was able to talk to someone for the first time about like stuff that he'd never really told anyone, you know, like stuff about his father, just the way that you should be acting. And then I feel like that really makes him go through just a human transformation. And then I don't know, maybe Swiss Army Man was just placed there by Jesus.
That's interesting because obviously
Jesus.
Obviously this Swiss Army Man, Manny, can't judge him, right? So he's like sharing all these things, or even when he's talking about what it means to be weird, or like what that word even means, and all that, and he's kind of talking through, I don't know, like just like the realities or the truths of matters, and I don't know, I guess just trying to shed his light on it. But
the scene I was thinking of is when he dresses up like the girl, and then he's like embarrassed to show himself to Manny, and then he's like, "Oh, I look terrible," and then Manny's like, "You look beautiful," and then he feels like, you know, like all self-conscious or like unself-conscious. I don't know. I don't know what the reverse of that would be.
One thing
self-confident. There you go.
One thing I just noticed on IMDb here is that this movie has 2 directors / writers, and they're both named Daniel. And then obviously got Daniel Radcliffe, and then like, you know, Paul Daniel. Like, it's just a lot of Daniels in there. So I wonder if that was part of their vision. Is like, okay, let's just get a shit ton of Daniels working on this.
Let's
movie.
get 5 Daniels, and then a guy named Paul Dano, and then we're
only auditioning Dans, okay, for this movie. Don't talk to anyone else. If they don't have a Dan in their name, don't do it. But that's the thing. We did talk about how, like, when he does see Sarah, he doesn't really talk to her. He kind of, it's the same scenario, but maybe also why he's being brought there is not to talk to her. It's almost just to show him her life, to be like, she is a husband, she is a kid, you have to find your meaning in life. You're like, your meaning or your purpose in life is not with this woman, clearly, because she is relatively happy. It seems like, from all we know, is the little we've seen of her, she has a happy life, and she's not the answer to your problems. If anything, you're the answer to your problems. But it's for sure, whatever you want to take from the ending, whether the corpse is real or not, it's not her. She's not going to solve anything from her. And it's almost like he doesn't talk to her like the way he would want to. But at the end of the day, with it being on the bus, they're both on the bus together, right? And she gets on the bus, he watches her leave the bus. Him, Manny, bringing Daniel / Hank to the house, there's no her getting off the bus. You are put in a situation now where no matter what, you're going to have to see her, talk to her. And he talks to her a little bit, definitely more near the end when he's kind of bugging out, telling her about the corpse. But still, he's forced to be put in the situation where on the bus, he could always have that choice to recluse and go away and not have to be kind of in her eyesight, anything like that. But the second he brings with it, it's kind of show, you know, you have to confront this. No matter how this is going to go, good, bad, or ugly, to move on with your life, to grow, you got it. And maybe that's the point of him not talking to her. It's just showing, like, see, you haven't grown, and you're not going to grow with her, with the idea of her. So maybe move on, and maybe that could be your act of God, Kirkland, of somebody trying to, you know, or act of Jesus trying to push him forward and go, you need to find someone else to invest in life. And maybe that's Manny, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting too, because like when he gets to Sarah's house, right? Like that's the ultimate moment, like you just mentioned. Like, there's no her getting off the bus. Like, you have to deal with this, and whether or not this was Manny bringing Hank to her house for this reason, I don't know, to have a big like transformation process. But then like what follows that scene, it gets really like dark, almost like really
that
quick, almost like the reveal of Joker, right? When like he wasn't with that girl the entire time, and you kind of get chills because you see his hut right outside her house. He's got like those straw people made up of the people he knows, like the makeshift bus. He's got the photos of her on his phone. It's really dark and creepy. And then when he's on the beach with Manny, and Manny's not talking or anything, and like the cops are there and he's like, I love him, he saved me, you know. It's so sad and like so creepy, because at that point it's like, was Manny really dead the whole time? And like Paul Dano's actually just a crazy person the entire time
and needs a lot of help.
Totally. And then it makes a crazy shift again when he comes back alive. So it's like, I don't know how I'm supposed to take the ending, you know.
Oh yeah, and I think they probably have some idea about when they wrote like what they feel the meaning truly is. But that's what I liked at the end. It was kind of that positive thing, because it does get really creepy, and that's the thing the movie could have took. But the fact that he does have all that built up relatively close to her is just like, she is a child. He's kind of stalking her. It's just like, okay, what route are we going? Because like, yeah, I didn't think this movie was particularly dark, but I didn't think this movie was a lot of things, right? It all goes all over the place. So it's like, I was like, oh, are we going to take this really extremely dark path where he's been maybe doing some stuff that we don't want to know about? You know, it's kind of like Joe and You, where there's stuff where at first, hey, he's a regular guy, and then it's like, oh, he was like smelling her panties the entire season. That's fucked up. Like, I didn't think, like, I know he was a weird stalker, but it's like, why is he keeping her used tampons? It's like, he's even weirder than we already thought. So I thought, are we going to go that route? I was like, he's also like a lot more deranged than we thought, but it's just like, no, he's a guy that clearly doesn't have a sense of reality. Maybe if Manny's not real, right, or that corpse isn't real, he's lost touch with reality, and he clearly needs some help as far as distancing and social boundaries and everything like that. But again, that last thing throws in that kind of underhook jab of like, well, if this is he's still out there by her house, still not great, no matter if Manny's there. But even then, if he has risen somehow, this dead body, it's like, well, that takes a whole new meaning. Because if it is true, there's that news guy, he's filming the whole thing. That would be an earth-shattering experience for us as people, to see a dead body come back to life farting. You know, if that were to make our way, that'd be definitely a podcast topic.
I feel like that's alien level of like mind-blowing news.
Oh yeah, for sure. If people can come back to life, you know.
And if they get a zoom in of his face to make that gif, I feel like.
Oh, I can't remember. There was another scene I wanted to shout out somewhere in the middle. Something I enjoyed. I had it and then I lost it. But
might give you some time to remember, because I was just gonna say like a couple other just like, I don't know, tools, I guess. That was the Swiss Army Man one. You know, obviously you get the water collection. That's hilarious. You got the you got the compass, which is just great. The other one was just hilarious, was when he used them as like a rebreather, and he's just like sucking them in, and you can just hear like the noise like from a rebreather of like a scuba diver. I was just like, oh man, what can't this guy do?
There's that moment with the bear attack when he just shoved the rocks and the glass in his mouth and used them as like a machine gun. That was horrifying to watch, when he's just like, Manny, he pulls him and just shoves it right in his mouth, and he's like, oh, and then like he's just, and then, but the thing, I love that thing of when he throws him down, he sees Sarah with another man, and then you just see the rock slowly fall out of his mouth, because he's lost like this will to live. And kind of like the similar thing with Dan, almost like you losing will to live if he's not getting the girl. So I loved that particular one of like the machine gun with the bear.
I was gonna say, like when he's first using the machine gun, and it's just like the montage. I think he shoots like a squirrel's head off. It's just so
he goes on a murdering spree of animals with Manny as the gun.
Don't forget
I loved his gadgets.
Yeah, he's like a matchbook as well. He just like snaps his fingers like for a big explosion. Right. I always love the sound effect when he does it too.
Yeah, and then what about when he's using his teeth as a razor when he shaves his teeth, or sorry, shaves his beard?
That was so fucking gross. That I wince when it's just like, you think like his hair is like, and it's just like all this hair is like in between his teeth now and everything. It's just like,
yeah. The funniest thing about like all these like different like tools that he gets out of them, they have like the same audio of like what it would be like, how I was saying like the rebreather, right? Like it sounds like an oxygen tank, and then when he's cutting, like he's shaving, it sounds like he's using a fucking like Gillette, you know? Like he's just got like the audio perfect, and the visual was just so funny to pair with.
And then the other scene I was going to bring up that I really like, because again, it's almost like the firing, the way they make it touching, but at first it's much like a joke, is to talk about masturbation and how he has like, Paul Dano again shows like everything, majority of people in life, and some movie characters shows like he had clearly a different upbringing, and he has this conversation with his mother who's dying about, well, if you masturbate enough times, maybe we can die the same day. Very, I don't know your relationship with your parents, so if you're having that conversation, that's great. In my world, that would be considered a little off if I was talking to either of my parents about masturbation masturbating to catch up to them dying. I think that's a sentence of words I'll never hear in my life, and I hope so. But when that's happening, is like, so they're talking about this, and then so he says he can't masturbate because he kind of thinks of his mom, and he's talking about how that's weird. And then Dan Aykroyd just goes like, "Well, when I masturbate, I'm gonna think of your mom." And he's like, "Man, he's like, no, I just don't want you to be weird." But then as they progress about that, they go on that date, and he's like, "I have this friend Hank who, he won't masturbate because he thinks of his mom, but I just want him to be happy, And again, they're having this conversation, and that's why I could see anybody being checked out of the movie, because it is about like at times stupid, very high school plotty humor that you could be like, they're making an emotional conversation about him masturbating to someone's mother, but at the same time, they, for me at least, hit it home and made it a genuine, like, you can see that Manny is developing these real emotions, and he cares for him, and he cares for what he just doesn't want, like, him to escape and bring him back to life. He generally wants to make his life better, and that's why that could maybe literally point with his handy compass of like him trying to give him something back as well, to make, whether it's him wanting him to masturbate or him to confront this girl, he kind of gives it back like, you're giving me life, well, I want to try to fix your life at least, or make your life better. So I really liked that sequence, or those pairings of scenes.
Yeah, that's a good point. Another example of basically what you just said would be like, I forget what scene it is, but Hank like starts humming, and then I think Manny's like, well, why are you singing? And he's like, oh, it distracts me from my fear. And then later on, I forget again like specifically what's going on, but Manny, he's like humming, and then Hank asks him what's going on. He's like, I think he tells him to do something, and then he starts humming, and then he's like, yeah, I'm humming to like, help with your fear, which is, going to show that he's going out of his way to, I don't know, help Paul Dano, exactly like you just said, with like the master, like the way it's delivered is a little iffy, but the sentimental is definitely there. He's definitely a heartfelt character, and it's funny because he is someone that was dead, and like when he first starts talking, he sounds just really ridiculous, and he can't really formulate sentences properly. And then you just see like the transition. I mean, at the end, he's pretty much walking, right? Like at the end scene with the bear. Yeah. Like it's just seeing like his growth of a character, but like he's just so innocent in the things that he says. They're really ridiculous. Just I don't know. It's almost like if you had like a child that was like a full person, but he still had the mind of a child. Like, he doesn't really understand like street smart stuff, just how like Hank has to explain to Manny that you can't just be like farting in public and stuff. But it's funny just seeing the growth of Manny, of like not only being able to use his body properly or like speak like better, just understanding the world, but also just like showing that he has heart towards Hank, and in doing the things like like the example you gave, or like when he's trying to hum just to make him sound better. And I was gonna say this earlier when we were talking about the music, but there's a couple times that they would do the humming and transition it into a song, and I thought it was beautifully executed. I really love the soundtrack of this movie.
Yeah, totally agree.
Very indie-esque. I'd say like indie rock almost.
Yeah.
For an indie movie.
Yeah, it's like both uplifting and also like somewhat unsettling at times, because this movie is totally like, I don't know, if you take away some of the humor, it's like this would be a very dark movie, as I think Travis was talking about earlier. So.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, there's definitely, you could probably recut some of this to be a horror film, to be honest. Like, or really like
there's a horror movie.
You take
in
some
there
of the,
for sure.
Yeah, you take some of the score out of this and replace it with like Hereditary type like score. It could be a completely different movie. It's
and like I feel like if you did some recasting, like if you didn't have Harry Potter as the dead corpse, had like someone a little creepier, a little bit more just like
James
eroded.
McAvoy.
It's his skin's kind of like I don't know, pulling away. He kind of looks like Two-Face. I feel like it would have changed so much, but like when you just get like Manny like smirking when he's in the water, man, even if you had Hereditary music, I would be laughing. Like his smirk and just his face and his emotion that he showed is just, it made me laugh so hard.
Because that could be spinned as a creepy ending, as far as you literally have a zombie. Like you have a person that's come back from the dead who's farting, traveling through water. So if you could recut this stuff, that is a horror moment. Like this guy
shooting rocks dead. At people.
This guy's he's back from the dead. He can start fire. He can do all these things. So yeah, there's a fun cut in there one day if one of our fans ever has time. I think I have used all the notes I have. Do you guys have anything else?
I was looking through some of the IMDb reviews, and it's It's hilarious how many of these are either 10 or 1 out of 10.
Oh, yeah.
Like at least, if like I don't know, just a rough ballpark, I'd say probably like 80% of them are either a 10 or a 1. Like that's just how divisive this is. But some of these are really funny. Here's a quick snippet of one of them. Compelled to provide a review for the first time in 30 years. First of all, that's such a strange title for a review. Like, was this person once a reviewer like back in the day, and this like brought them
wonder what
they
wonder what
the storm.
Yeah.
He hasn't
or
reviewed
was it
since
just
the storm?
Or was it just one movie 30 years ago that made them write this, and now they're back? You know, and if that's the case, I want to know what that movie was 30 years ago.
Yeah, I don't know. Here's what they say. The premise of this film is that connectedness drives our existence, and that we need interaction to feel meaningful. That insular, insecure, and depressed young woman is the vehicle for the exploration of this message through the formation of our relationship with a corpse. Poorly conceived, atrociously executed, and without any intellectual merit. Fucking savage.
Which I could think that you could watch this film, and I think for the first 5 minutes, you're either in or out. I was in right away. I kind of knew what they were going for, and then I thought it got better and better. But I don't think you could say there's no merit to this film. I think there's some good shots in there. There's some well placed, like you guys talking about cinematography and score. But I just think even performances wise, it could be a weird movie not for you. But I don't think this is a complete trash bag, even if you disliked it. There's some good stuff in here. But again, people maybe just can't get over the farting part, and I get that.
When he finds the cork and then he just looks at it, and then there's no scene of him putting the cork in. It's just the farting stops. It's a pretty good scene.
And just and some of how outlandish was sometimes when they just zoom on Radcliffe's ass and there's bubbles and it's shooting and he's like a rocket, or you throw that gif when Hansi recommended the movie for us, but just that moment in the very beginning of the movie where he takes his tie, he wraps around Radcliffe, and he spanks him to get him go faster, and it's all in slow motion. And it's just it's such a great moment. It's a gif I'm gonna use forever, because it's just a movie moment you'd seen a sports movie, or the Last Dance documentary with Michael Jordan. But no, it's just this guy, he's on a farting corpse riding through the ocean, and he's just so happy he's found his way out. And it's just, man, this movie just I'm always gonna remember, and it's definitely a movie I'll watch again. But the moments in this film are just priceless. You couldn't think of any better ones to singe in your mind of never forgetting.
Yeah. Another one of those slow-mo scenes was hilarious when they fall off of that pipe bridge thing that they're on, and then they're in the water, and then I think that's when he's using him as a rebreather, and then sure enough he just gets shot right into the air, and then it's a slow-mo scene of them soaring into the air, basically using Daniel Radcliffe as a jetpack, but it's just his farts. It's just, oh man, they pulled those off.
They definitely went
But one
for
other
it.
thing I wanted to shout out was the Jurassic Park quote that they use. I feel like Taylor should just have this quote in his life. Is just, if you don't know Jurassic Park, you don't know shit. But that was hilarious. Definitely thought it was a Taylor movie.
Yeah, no, I actually would love to hear what Taylor would think of this one. It's too bad he couldn't make it.
Yeah.
He's too busy.
Yeah. No, it would be up his alley. Do you guys have anything else? Should I throw out some trivia? I've thrown out some of it, so I don't have too much left. But
I'm ready for trivia.
I think it's trivia time. Yeah.
yeah, so I talked about that whole thing with Dano, and that's why I agree the film was the fart line. Daniel Radcliffe promoted the movie by touring Los Angeles and New York with the Manny the Doll as his companion, attending interviews, fan conventions, and even taking him on roller coasters. So there you go.
I was looking at those photos. They're on the IMDb.
Are they?
I was looking through some of them. That's weird. Just casting.
Oh, really? I gotta take a look at
him on the
those.
bus with the mannequin.
Let's see. So a fake version of Manny was made to be used for most of the film, but Daniel Radcliffe insisted on being in every shot of the film. The dummy was only used for a few shots where the stunts were deemed too dangerous for Radcliffe, but he would often still throw or toss the dummy. So he was clearly, and again, that was the note I have after. It said it was his favorite film. So clearly he had a really good time making this movie with cast and crew. So I have to look more into these directors' work and see more what they've done, because I'd like to see if they'd work together again.
No,
this is a movie, and it makes.
All right, I was just gonna say, I think it's so cool, because this could very easily seen as I don't know, just a calling it in sort of movie. So it's awesome to see how involved or invested he was to really bring this movie to life.
He was Harry Potter man for a decade. he doesn't have to do any big movies anymore. Come on, he can do all these horns. What other movies? Guns
Akimbo. Yeah, one of the weirdest movie titles.
Imperium. I think another movie I saw. Another one called Jungle. Like, we should just do it retro on Danny Radcliffe.
He's fun. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Maybe not.
Oh boy, that gif popped up again of him riding Daniel Radcliffe in the water. This movie was filmed in only 22 days, which does make sense because it's just those two. It's a smaller scale, but still 22 days. That's crazy. That 3 weeks of time. That's a very short film and set time for a film. So.
Yeah, that is crazy. There's one point in this movie I honestly thought like Mary Elizabeth Winstead was only in like the flashback scenes and like the background of the phone. I didn't think she was gonna make an appearance. I thought it was just gonna be the two of them the entire movie.
As I talked about at the beginning, due to times with its juvenile humor, particularly the avid fart jokes, many audience members walked out of the theater when this was screened at the Sundance Film Festival, which is a very high-class film festival, so you can imagine that maybe not, it wasn't for everybody in those parts. But so it was a very divisive film, and as Dylan pointed out, it still is. It's a film that definitely is a love-hate scenario. And then my last note is this marks the second time in a row Mary Elizabeth Winstead's last line in a film was "fuck." This the first time being 10 Cloverfield Lane.
That's a fun fact. Here's one more. Here's one more fun fact. One of the directors also directed a Tenacious D music video, so I think that's a perfect fit.
Which one?
For Rise of the Phoenix.
Oh damn!
Yeah, which is a solid music video. So there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Dan. I just assumed it was Dan because there's like 5
Yeah,
Dans.
you're safe to just throw Dan out there. Cover all the options.
Yeah, that's the entire cast and crew pretty much you threw out there. So I will give this, so I don't even think I said a recommendation. I should have at the beginning, but I think it's just if you listen to this the whole time or if you're wanting who to recommend to, I think it's just kind of, you have to recommend to people that like weird shit, like a Hereditary or Lighthouse, but explain them, hey, this is maybe a bit lighter version of that, or just people that are open-minded. They're wanting different movies, and I think there are people, if you could get them past the potty humor, that there is to me like an inspirational story in there about finding yourself and finding meaning in life where you don't think it would be there, or maybe finding a certain way to go about a situation as far as you think this is the way your direction in your life you have to go, or it's kind of like that Rolling Stones song, sometimes you don't get what you want but you get what you need. And that's what I'd say about this film. That's the log line, is he didn't get Sarah but he got what he needed, and what he needed was Manny the farting corpse. So I'm gonna give this film a 9.5. Like I said, I think there's some things, it's mostly near the ending, but yeah, I loved this film. As I was watching, I was just like, man, I think I'm going to watch this many times again in my life. It was that middle chunk, because the first chunk is definitely the like mystery of what's going on. The last chunk is more, okay, it's what's going on, maybe a little creepy. And like I said, I think there's the pacing of it is a little quick. There's some stuff that they add on maybe on purpose to make it, I think, not too, it wasn't confusing, but it was just like, I don't think this was needed, as I stated earlier. But the middle portion, I really enjoyed. So yeah, 9.5 for me. Damn. I think our highest rating of the Patreon picks for me, because all of them have been pretty low or just passing that. I guess actually Snowpiercer I think was pretty high when we did that, but these two have stood out as some of the better movies we watched. So as always, Hansi, thanks for supporting us just in general, but thanks for the movie recommendation. It was a fun convo and it was a fun watch, and it's definitely adding into the list of Travis library to return to.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'll go next. Yeah, I definitely recommend this movie to people that they like just kooky type humor, kind of original type funny, I don't know, weird movies, but it's got some deepness to it. It's got some real heartfelt just tones and stuff to the movie, and it's something more than just your average fart joke movie. Or what was it called? It was dead butt or corpse farty movie.
The farting corpse movie. That's what it was.
Yeah, the farting corpse movie. There you go.
Definitely the best of its genre.
I think I can believe that. There's not many that come to mind. I definitely want to watch this again. I feel like I probably won't watch it alone though. I don't know. This type of movie, I feel like if I'm gonna watch it again, it'll either be to show people and just see their reaction, or who knows, maybe a couple years down the road, I'll just really want to dive back into this story. So I think I'm gonna give this one like a 7.5, maybe 8 out of 10. definitely nothing what I was expecting was gonna happened. Nothing. I don't know. I feel like I kind of wasn't expecting much out of it. I don't know. I thought it was just going to be a drama. I had no idea there's comedic tones in this movie whatsoever. Like when I pressed play, I didn't read like the IMDb. I didn't read the synopsis. I didn't know that there's fart jokes in it. Like I was definitely blown away in that sense. So I don't know. I think it'll be a fun movie to revisit though. And yeah.
Yeah, I think this was
the only.
Go ahead, Travis.
The only thing I was gonna say before Dylan was how the difference of Paul Dano with the beard, without the beard. He's one of the people that when him with his beard, he looks like a full-grown adult, but when he shaves, he still looks like he's in high school. It's crazy. Like I know people always say that, like with a beard you look older, but with him especially, like when he shaved himself, I was like, my God, like this is 2016, and he still looks like the same way he did in the early 2000s. He's got that baby
face, right?
Oh yeah. So, anyways, I want to say that because I saw another picture of him and I wanted to shout that out.
What do you think he's gonna have in the Riddler? You think he's gonna be shaved or
give him a nice big
shadow?
I want to see the full Hank beard.
Yeah, I want the Hank beard. Same hairdo and everything.
I think shaved or a stubble. I don't know. I think because there's always two versions of the Riddler. There's the very clean cut kind of businessman, or there's the very gross, like slimy, walks with a cane, has like a bunch of scars on him. So that's the thing with this guy. He could go either route. You could see him being that clean cut, like looking nice guy, or you could see him looking slimy. And that's Paul Dano's a very talented actor. And I've already said, but I'm very excited to see what he's going to do in that movie. I just think him as a villain, particularly, like. How he talked about how there's moments that could have got scary in this film. He's going to be playing a character now where he has to be, mainly scary to Batman. So him and Pattinson, especially, people should do a Lighthouse Swiss Army Man double feature before Batman comes out. That is a fucking wild ride. But I think those two as a pairing, we could get some really good stuff there.
I want to see like a super cut of taking all of Daniel Radcliffe's strange roles that he's been doing and like I don't know, somehow mangle it into like one cohesive movie. That'd be a challenge, but I don't know. It'd be fun to see like the best of. But yeah, no, I don't think I have too much to add. I don't give number ratings, but I'm really glad that I've seen this movie. This is definitely one that, there's so many times where I'm just talking to someone like either my parents or just a friend, and they know I do the podcast, and they're like, oh, what have you seen? Have you seen any cool movies lately? And I think this is going to be like top of mind now of like, oh yeah, here's this movie that you need to watch, or maybe if it's maybe like my mom, I don't think you need to see this movie, but let me tell you about this movie. So I'm really glad that this movie exists. And Summer, thank you for throwing this one out there. I think this is a great one to add on there. So
totally.
A lot of fun.
It's so funny. After we finished watching it, Shay was like, "I'm mad that I've seen that movie. Like, I'm mad that it's in my mind. Like I've witnessed total opposite." And it's like, I pretty much gave that example. It's like, well, just picture yourself, at a party in a few years, and someone just is randomly talking about this movie that had Harry Potter in it. He played a corpse, was farting in it. You could be like, "Oh yeah, I've seen that movie," and you can give your take on it.
Because Paul Dano's gonna blow up after Batman, right? So this movie's gonna get a second reemergence. I guarantee you it will.
Everyone's gonna be talking about it. Yeah.
People will, because these things happen where it's just like, oh yeah, he's from that farting corpse movie. Like, what movie? Oh, you haven't seen the movie that the guy that the Riddler played? Oh, you gotta check this out. Like, and you can see gifs. Like, there's gonna be gifs of him riding like Batman and stuff like that. Like, I guarantee you, this movie comes out 2021 Batman. I guarantee you, around that time, before or after, Swiss Army Man will be back in the conversation, because it's just one of those weird movies that people are gonna be like, he did what? Like, what did he do a few years ago? Oh yeah, you gotta see this movie.
It's funny too, hilarious. Just like with the title of it, I could see it being something where, I don't know, some dude who's looking for just like some big action movies, like, oh yeah, Swiss Army Man, that sounds like it has a lot of good action, but then no, definitely not.
Well, there you go. Another Patreon pick. As always, if you want us to do one of your movies, games, TV shows, not really a TV show, that'd be too long for us, but maybe something, always talk to us. That's why jump on the Patreon, and we're always down to conversate. Even social media, you could hit us up before and say, hey, is this something you guys would be interested in doing? Or we're pretty much game for most stuff, because we've led to, whether the movies have been good, bad, or great, or fartalicious, we have been all over and having a good time. So anything you guys want to say before we get out of here?
Oh, I think we've said it all. We'll see you on the next one, guys.
That's all, folks.
Have a good one, and it will not be boring next time we talk to you.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Boom.